What's happening, guys? So I have done a lot of videos on reverse dieting, right? I talk about it quite frequently, and what I thought would be kind of cool is to actually show you the reverse process that I'm going through right now myself. So I stopped my cutting phase about 3 weeks ago or so, and I am now in my reverse diet, right? I am not doing it myself. I have Paul Revelia doing my coaching for me and giving me my numbers. However, we have pretty similar standards in how we do things and the process we go through things, and I thought it would be really helpful to see how I'm going through it with him and maybe talk about some of the differences in the way we typically do things. But what I want to do is basically just document. Every single week I want to document what the changes were in the reverse, all right, how things are going, how things are responding, why I think we're doing things the way we're doing, and I thought maybe that would help you kind of get a better understanding, a better grasp on reverse dieting. Now, it's really important for me to note or make you aware that these numbers and this process is very specific to me and my body and how things are going for me. All right, it will not be the same for you. I can pretty much guarantee you things would go a little bit different for you because there's a lot of different variances, and not only how the body responds, but what your goals are and what you're trying to accomplish and things like that. So there's no like one set way to do this, but I thought it would be really helpful if you could at least just kind of see how the process works and how we walk up calories and how things happen. So every single week, like I said, I'm going to document the changes that were made and why they kind of were made and what we're trying to accomplish here, right? So for me, understand that I'm coming off of about a 27-week diet, all right? So I was in a deficit for quite a while. There were some diet breaks in there and everything, so it wasn't the whole time. And understand that I got pretty dang lean, and the reason I mention that is because I have found, and Paul said the same thing, that it seems like the leaner somebody gets, the better the reverse diet tends to go for that person. Like there's something very powerful about a good reverse diet when the body is really lean. It just tends to respond really well. So that's one thing to kind of keep in mind. Also, I'm specifically now going into a building phase where I'm trying to build muscle but also maintain a decent amount of leanness so that I don't gain too much weight before I go into a show prep next year at some point. So this is not the same as kind of a general just trying to reverse diet to improve a metabolism from a long history of dieting or anything like that. But like I said, there are going to be some similarities and you can see how the process works. So I'm behind though. I've been doing this for a few weeks. I just kind of asked him recently if it was okay if I documented this since it was his information, which he doesn't mind at all. And I will get you caught up on the first 3 weeks here, and then after that, every single week what I will do is just do a quick update on what happened and the changes that were made so you can kind of see. All right? So with that being said, I have the numbers on my phone here, and what I will do is I will talk about things, and then I will also display on the screen so you can see a little bit closer kind of some of the changes that we're making and how we go about doing things. So basically when I ended the diet after 27 weeks, I was basically maintaining my weight at that point. Right? Things had pretty well stalled out, and what we did, so my macros for this time, I'm going to give you the average for the week. Understand that it was different, right? So I had training day macros, I had non-training day macros, and I had a refeed day as well. So these macros that I'm giving you is an average of all those for the week, right? So keep that in mind. But what I was basically doing for an average at that point was 187 grams of protein, 227 grams of carbs, and 65 grams of fat, which equates to 2,241 calories. All right, so that was what I was doing at the end of my cut. To start the reverse process, we actually made a pretty big increase, and what Paul wanted to do was basically give me like a diet break. All right, so pretend like we were going to do a diet break, do that for a week, and then see how their body responds and let that kind of be the starting point of the reverse process. So what he did for that first week was he increased my calories by about 274. All right, so this was a whole week of 180 protein, 280 carbs, and 75 fat, which is 2,515 calories. So again, that's a 274 calorie increase from what I was doing. We wanted to hold that. It was actually only 5 days because I was going to Minnesota for a handful of days at that point, and I wasn't really going to be paying too close to my nutrition and everything, so we had to kind of keep that in mind. So the first part was only 5 days, but in those 5 days, I actually lost 0.2 pounds. So I weigh myself every single morning after waking up and going to the bathroom so that we can keep things as consistent as possible. And what I do is then I take an average for the week, all right? So I just find that this is a better way to take away the fluctuations that can happen on the scale, and just kind of, it just makes a lot more sense to me. I've talked about this before, but I wanted to quick put that up there. So the average for the week after those first 5 days was 166.8. So I lost 0.2 pounds based on average that first week with the diet break. So even though the pretty big increase in calories, I'm still stayed roughly the same and even lost a little bit. So with that, Paul took my numbers and he gave me a little bit of a bump and bumped up my carbs by 15 grams and my fat by 2 grams. And that led to a 78 calorie increase, which brought my total calories to 2,593. And then we were gonna kind of hold those. Now this was actually after my Minnesota vacation, so my weight had jumped up and down quite a bit. I took those weights out because I felt like they were irrelevant. All right, I had like the state fair day and a bunch of stuff, so I was bloated and they just weren't very accurate. I actually jumped up to like 271.5 at one point, but it came right back down again. And so after that next week, I actually lost weight. All right, again, so now for my average, it was 166.3 for the week. So I lost 0.5 pounds on average despite the calorie increase. And with that, he wanted to increase my calories again. This is how the reverse diet process works. You just continually add calories, but you make different adjustments, kind of how the body is responding. So if you're gaining or losing or maintaining, and depending on what your goals are, you're gonna make adjustments a little bit different based on that. So it's not just, a lot of people think reverse diet is just add 50 or 100 calories every single week. It doesn't work that way, right? You kind of want to take a look at things and see, okay, how's the body responding? Am I gaining? Am I losing? Am I maintaining? How am I feeling? And make different adjustments based on that. So if you're losing, you're probably gonna make bigger adjustments. If you're maintaining, you might make smaller adjustments or more moderate adjustments. And if you're gaining, you might just hold, or you might make really small changes, just kind of depending on a lot of different things. So with that, he increased my calories by 60. So it was 15 grams of carbs were added to it. Now, I actually made a mistake with this, although it's working out just fine. He actually added it to my training days only. I took it as 15 grams of carbs across the board. So I wasn't supposed to add them to my non-training days, but I did. It's looking like that's gonna be just fine because I'm actually, right now, I'm basically the lightest I've ever been. I'm probably another ½ pound down or so. So it obviously didn't hurt me, but I actually made that mistake. So it wasn't supposed to be that big of an increase for the week, but hey, it's working out just fine. So as you can see, you know, I basically am down, at this point, I'm down about a full pound since I started the reverse. And that just kind of goes back to what I was talking about before, all right? I was pretty dang lean to start. The body is responding really well. And another thing to kind of keep in mind is, and I'm not saying this to brag by any means, I'm just saying that I am very diligent about my macros, all right? I hit them pretty well every single week, all right? So I'm on top of it, and that really helps the body respond really well to reverse diet. The more consistent you can be, the more on top of things you are, the better the process is gonna go. And a lot of times when a reverse doesn't go well is because people are all over the place with their nutrition. So the more you can dial it in, the better the process is gonna go. So that's just another thing to keep in mind. That doesn't mean that you should never be off plan and you have to hit your macros to the T every single day. That's not what I'm saying. And like I said, I was in Minnesota and things were all over the place, and I still ended up being okay by the time I came back. So it's not about being perfect, but the more consistent you are, the better the process typically goes. And pretty much every client that I've ever had that has had a reverse go extremely well for them has been really diligent about their macros. Right? The body likes consistency. So that's 3 weeks basically. I will update you again next week, but it's looking like there's going to be a nice increase coming again my way because I am losing still this week. And we are actually going to the Olympia. Actually, by the time you see this video, I will be in Vegas with the crew. So if you're going to the Olympia, if you're there, stop by and say hi if you see me. Hopefully this information you will find helpful. If you have any questions on the reverse process or why we did things the way we're doing, please let me know and I will check in next week.
I'm addicted to the love that you're giving. Every minute, every day I've been craving.